think one of the things that really sabotages us in life is not knowing what we don't know. I know, for an example, I know that I can't make a computer. Now, I might be able to make a computer if I took the time to learn how to make a computer, but as it stands, I have no interest in doing that, and as such, I can't make a computer. So I know that I can't do that. The problem is that most people don't have an awareness of what's going on functionally with them physiologically because they never test themselves. Why? Because they don't know how. In the same light that I don't know how to make a computer, very few people actually know how to functionally test themselves so they know what's going awry. I think one of the big things is if you see someone like me, what I do is I can check you so that we begin together to investigate and to evaluate what's going on with you physiologically. That is to say, are you trending towards greater health or are you trending towards lesser health? And this is very, very important because I hear so frequently, and by that I mean literally as every week passes, I seem to hear about one or two people, for example, that suddenly found out they're in stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. And this brings to my point that these people never did anything to really check out, not whether they had a disease per se or not, but what was going on fundamentally with them from a physiologic perspective. And the notion of functional tests in medicine involves you getting checked out, whether it be through blood tests, urine tests, and a host of other tests. What is your body doing? So we can actually figure out how well are you functioning. And let me give you an example. The biggest killer worldwide is heart disease. So there are some fantastic tests that very few doctors use. For example, you can do C-reactive protein. You can do high-sensitivity C-reactive protein. And what this does is it actually allows us to determine the degree of inflammation in the cardiovascular system and in the rest of the body. And so by knowing that, if you have a very poor score in these tests, then what begins to happen is we can put together a profile that you're someone that has a serious inflammatory process. What do we know about inflammation? We know that inflammation tends to lend towards diseases, whether they be autoimmune in nature, whether they be cancer, whether they be strokes or heart attacks. So I think one of the biggest shifts we have to do is get away from a lot of the fads, and we need to begin to use doctors like me who specialize in being able to functionally evaluate what's actually happening with the body. You know, it's one thing to read a book. There are a lot of great books, for example, on paleo eating or the paleo diet. And they'll educate you, and it's wonderful to be educated. However, that doesn't make up for having someone that can actually evaluate you to determine what's going on physiologically with your body. See, here's the thing. If you're physiologically evaluated and we see markers that are predictable that you're going to have a heart attack in the next 5 or so years, would it be valuable to know what those risk factors are and what the markers indicate so you can make changes commensurate with your findings? Or do you want to be one of those persons, like a guy I know recently at the gym, had some tests run, he was having some trouble, and he found out that he had 75% occlusion of 5 of the major coronary arteries, and as such, 2 weeks later, he's having bypass surgery in, I believe, his late 40s. Now, I really feel for him. He's a super guy, very intelligent man, tends to do a lot of research, and I can't help but think, had we done some tests on him some years before, as we started to see this process develop, it's very likely we could have made some real significant changes in his diet that would have led to a different outcome. And what's really interesting is this gentleman, as I mentioned, very educated engineer, said that he was eating a low-fat diet, no beef, not drinking any alcohol, so, et cetera, all those things that you're not supposed to, low-salt diet and so forth. And he said to me, you know, Nelson, I'm exercising more than an hour a day, watching all this, my alcohol intake, my sugar intake, my cholesterol levels, how much beef I eat, and here I am in my 40s, and I had 75% occlusion of 5 of my major arteries. You know, I can't believe this. Well, the point is, don't wait till you can't believe it. Go to someone like me that can check you out and it will get you evaluated, so you have an understanding of what's going on with your body, and as such, you can predict where you're headed. Are you headed towards greater levels of health, or are you headed towards that heart attack, that episode with cancer, that episode with a stroke? Get yourself checked out. Don't guess.